Man, we got lots to talk about today. Of course, the Rays with another win at Steinbrenner Field, 5-3 this time over the Rangers. Mike Kelly leaving USF for Navy, and the Stanley Cup Finals are underway. We'll talk about all that here. But let's start with the Rays, and you were there, Steve. Big night for Brandon Lowe. Man, that guy is dialed in. And when he dials in, he can carry a ball club for a month, which is just about what he's done now. Home run, doubled in a run. They had a big 4-run inning in the third. Then you had Shane Baz, pretty good 5 innings. Got a little shaky there in the fifth, but they hang on to win 5-4. They're now 3 games over 500, man. They're 32-29, and that's the season high.
More importantly,
11 out of 14.
Yes, 11 out of 14. And they're over 500 at Steinbrenner Field now, 20-19.
Which is crazy when you think about how they started. At one point, they had lost 9 of 11, I think, there.
I think they went through a 1-11 stretch.
Was it 1-11? Okay. Yeah. No, it's been quite the turnaround, and they're getting great starting pitching, great pitching in general. That's been a constant. The defense has been really, really good.
Although they did have 2 errors on Wednesday night.
They did. I thought it was going to extend the game. I mean, Brandon Lowe boots one with 2 outs in the ninth. All of a sudden, the tying run is on, and you're thinking, "Uh-oh!" But then he actually ends the game with a ground ball that he handled.
And Caballero had one in the first that Aranda caught, missed the tag.
Right. That was a weird play. Have you ever seen a play like that where the guy jumps over the tag?
Well, what was weird about it was the umpire signaled safe.
Right.
And then Aranda waited and tagged him, but the umpire actually didn't signal safe. What he signaled was he missed the tag.
Okay.
And the official, because he's looking at that tag, never saw him touch the base. So he couldn't call him safe. So when
he
Aranda
just pointed at the tag where he missed him.
So then when Aranda tagged him,
right,
he had to call him out. Now, the Rangers challenged it and won, but what should have happened, at least I think so, is that umpire should have asked for a second opinion.
Yeah, he should have gotten help. Yeah,
because I didn't see him touch the base. Did he touch the base? Because he leaped over it, and as he missed the tag, he landed on the base. It wasn't like he landed, took 2 steps, and hit it. Mm-hmm. So I don't think the umpire was so quick to signal safe, missed the tag, which was correct, that I don't think he saw where the foot landed, whether on the base, off the base. So you can't call him safe. You have to wait for him to tag and then call him out because you never saw him touch the base. That's where your other umpire's got to help you, and he never asked for help on that. But the Rangers end up challenging it, get the call right, and it worked out.
And he was, in fact, safe, right?
Yes, because after he hurdled it, he came down and landed on the base.
Yeah, so it didn't matter, Yep. At that point.
At first, I know, Andy and Neil thought, he must have made a move to second because they tagged him out. And it was like, no, the umpire, because he's watching the tag, and you're looking real closely, and Aranda was close. I mean, he did not tag him, but it was close. Like, an umpire nailed that call. He got it right.
Yeah, he was signaling that he didn't tag him, but it looked like he was signaling he was safe, which is kind of the same arm signals. But it's a weird play. I've never seen a guy hurdle a glove like that going down the line. We were taught, when we were playing, that if you see the first baseman's feet shift as you're running to first, get down. Get down, get low, slide into first because you feel like their best chance is just to have a sweep tag. They're off the bag. Mm-hmm. They're going to catch it in a weird position and try to tag you out. So if you just instinctively watch their feet, and if they move like they're coming off the bag, just try to get low, as low as you can get.
But the throw took Aranda off the base and
towards
low.
The base runner,
and low. I mean, he had to bend down to get it, which is why he hurdled over him.
Right, but still really instinctive of the player. Although he, basically going to have a collision if he doesn't hurdle him. But it's truly a play I don't think I've seen somebody jump over a first baseman's glove, tag the bag, and be safe. So that was a weird one. So you're right. They did have a couple of errors, and the last one could have cost them. Obviously, they were without, just a hit or so away, and it's a tie ball game. But then they got the hitter to ground out for the final out. Fairbanks did to Lowe, and that was the ball game. They're playing better at Steinbrenner. They're hitting some of the big flies now. The home runs. I think the biggest change, Steve, has been the home runs. I mean, this was a team that wasn't hitting any the first part of the year, and now over these last, 20 games or so, they're slugging at a pretty good clip.
Well, not only that, and they're getting more home runs, they're also giving up less home runs, which was a problem early in the year.
That's true.
Not only were they not hitting home runs, they were giving them up a lot.
Yeah.
And they've cut that because the starting pitching's been fantastic.
It has.
And Shane Baz was great until he wasn't. But
till the fifth, yeah.
Yep. And actually, credit Jake Berger on their team for hustling out and beating out a double play.
Right.
Had he not hustled, or they were able to turn it just a split second faster, although the Rays did everything they could.
Yeah.
And they get out of that, then it's scoreless through 5 innings. And maybe Baz goes to 6, whatever, but he hustled, beat that out, and then they were able to score 3 runs that inning. Credit to the Rangers on that. There was 2 instances that they beat out double plays that extended innings for them.
The Rangers are just you look at their lineup and they're not hitting the way they should, and yet they're a pretty good team, overall. They've got decent pitching, obviously a Hall of Fame manager. So I'm kind of surprised that, they're kind of scuffling around in the way the Rays have handled them in this series.
That lineup, it's baffling how they're not better than they are.
I know.
Just absolutely baffling. I mean, and not only that, they're starting pitchers, and we talked about it yesterday, but for the second straight game, the Rays scored more than 3 runs against that starting. They had 22 straight starts where the starter didn't give up more than 3 runs.
Yeah.
Until this series. Now it's 2 in a row.
Yeah. Very bizarre. Baseball, you know what I mean? Like you really never know what you're going to get. And I credit the Rays, man, for them to hang in there after the way they started, especially at Steinbrenner. And listen, we've talked about this over and over again on this podcast and elsewhere, just how Josh Lowe in that lineup makes such a big difference in lengthening the lineup, how he's helped Caminero, moving him down. Caminero, continues to swing an incredibly hot bat. There was a good debate that I was listening to today about if you had to choose today, who are the all-stars the most deserving on this team right now? Because they're going to get a couple, I think.
Well, I don't know if they'll get any voted in to start.
Probably not. But, I mean, say they're selected either by vote or by the manager, whoever that will be. I guess the Yankees manager at this point probably be Boone, right? Or no?
I think the league picks it actually now.
The league does.
They took it out of the manager's hands, basically.
Okay, gotcha. At any rate, if you're just going to say, not by fan voting, but if you're just going to say, rank the most deserving all-stars on the Rays team, if they are to get any, where would you start?
I mean, Caminero's a possibility. Or not, Caminero.
Mm-hmm.
I think Aranda's been the best hitter, of course.
I think he's been their most consistent hitter and player, because he plays every day, but he's a first baseman, and so there's bound to be other first basemen in the American League that would probably outrank him. But as far as consistency goes, among the league leaders in average, driven in a lot of runs, decent number of home runs, I think probably Aranda.
Brandon, you can make a case for Brandon Lowe.
You can now. You're starting to. He got off to a horrific start, and some of it was bad luck. He was hitting some balls at people.
And he was a triple shy of the cycle tonight. And his last at bat, he drove onto the wall.
Yeah.
That the outfielder had to make a running catch. Had he missed that, it possibly could have been a triple.
It might have been a triple. He might have had
gone
the
off
cycle.
The wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it almost could have been a second home run, too. But
yeah. The guy that I think he's going to be picked the way he's going right now is Drew Rasmus.
Well, yeah, he absolutely right now should be.
To go, what is he, one and a third innings or so away from a club record by Alex Cobb for the most scoreless innings.
He's got a 2.14 ERA. He's got a 0.87 WHIP. Hitters are hitting .189 against him. I mean,
it's incredible. I mean, what he's done is incredible. So I think if you took a picture, it would be him. And I would say,
I think Fairbanks has a shot too.
Yeah, he probably does. Although, we hadn't really seen him work all that much lately.
No, but I mean, he's converted 11 of 12 save opportunities.
Yeah,
and has a 1.88 ERA. I mean,
that's one that people have not mentioned. I could see that.
I haven't looked at the rest of the closers around the American League, where he would rank in there, but you could make a case for him depending on what happens.
Yeah. So I don't know where Aranda would rank in terms of votes and stuff. Probably not very high. His first year playing first base, but he's been their most consistent guy from the start, opening day till now, as far as swinging the bat goes. Hits against lefties and righties, always in the lineup, up there in RBIs and stuff.
I remember having this conversation last season, and it was a struggle to figure out who could be an all-star on the Rays. Remember, Yandy Diaz got off to an awful start. Randy Arozarena got off to an awful start. They were struggling, and they basically hovered around 500 the whole season, and they could never get anything going. And it was just like you're sitting there going, "Who's going to be their all-star?" Like,
but they had just one all-star, I think, position-wise last year.
Right. It was, and he's not even on the team anymore. It's Isak Paredes was the all-star last year.
Okay, all right. He's been swinging a hot bat too for Houston, but
last year it was like he was kind of the only choice, but they just didn't have anybody dominating. And this season, you look at what Caminero's doing, what Brandon Lowe's doing now, how good Aranda's been as a hitter, and then Rasmussen and Fairbanks. I think you can make cases for all of them. Not some of it depends on who else makes it, and of course you got to pick somebody from every team. So it's not always the best player at every position or the best 2 or 3 that go, but it'll be interesting who makes it this year.
I was listening to Buster Olney on one of the programs, and he was talking about the Rays, and he said, just in general, like you look at teams this time of year, and it kind of which teams are getting better, right? Like which teams have a lot more improvement that they're can make. And the Rays are at the top of that list. I mean, the Rays are playing the best they've played. They're going to get Ha-Seong Kim to play shortstop for them still.
Yep.
That's going to be a huge boost. And don't forget, Shane McClanahan could come back and be their ace again the second half of this season.
No question.
So I mean, if you added him to the mix, and I was trying to think of who you would take out, but if you added him to the starting rotation and he could give you 5-6 solid innings like Rasmussen has done. It's kind of been on a pitch count a little bit. Man, I mean, you have as good a 1 through 5, maybe 1 through 6 starting staff that there is in the big leagues.
Yep, and you also have Joe Boyle down in AAA.
Down throws 100. Yeah.
So if you need a pinch starter, et cetera. I mean,
I
heard that same interview with Buster Olney. It was on T. Kraz's show.
That's it.
And he's just like he said. There's a lot of teams real close to the wild card race right now. In the American League, particularly, it's all muddled up there.
Yeah.
But which teams are getting better? He mentioned the Rays and the Yankees are definitely getting better. The Red Sox are not. They're getting worse.
Right.
The Rangers are just scuffling. Like, start going through. And although I think it's funny, and we were having this discussion tonight, people are, is this team going to be a buyer or sell? You're 8 weeks from the trade deadline.
Yeah, nobody's even beginning to think about that.
Nobody knows what their team is yet.
Everybody at this point's in it. I mean, who's really out of it?
Yeah, I heard, T. Kraz was asking Buster, who's going to be a buyer or seller? It's like, nobody knows yet. Like, it's way too early. Like, the Atlanta Braves a few years ago were written off almost at the trade deadline. They went on to win the World Series.
Yeah. Now, I think it's fair, although, again, way premature, but depending on where they are at the time when you get to the deadline in a while, the one guy whose name pops up, maybe even from the beginning of the year, is Brandon Lowe because of where he's at contractually.
Well, sure. I mean, you could sit there and say, if they don't think they have a shot at the World Series or they fall off, would they trade Brandon? Of course. I think they look. I think the Rays. I don't think there's a guy on this roster the Rays wouldn't trade.
Caminero?
I don't think they wouldn't trade him. But knowing
have to be a haul.
Knowing how much team control you have of him right now, I mean, it would be. I mean, you're talking a haul.
Yeah,
they're not trading him just to trade him,
right?
I don't think there's one guy on this roster you would be like, nope, they absolutely would never trade him.
Yeah,
there isn't, and so, but it depends on circumstances, and all this talk, and you see it even on MLB Network and everything else. It's like, they're going to be a buyer or seller. Like, it's way too, like, teams don't know yet. And with and so many teams, I mean, okay, the Rockies, maybe they're going to be sellers. Okay. Although they just got a
what
series
you
sweep.
got?
They just got a series sweep in Miami.
Don't you have to have something to sell?
Yeah, but if them or the White Sox or those teams that are way out, okay, fine. But everybody else, like, you're within 4 games of the wild card right now. Like, you're not guaranteed to be a seller yet. Now, are GMs considering that possibly? Sure, but no one's sitting there going, well, right now I'm 3 games out of the wild card. We're definitely sellers 8 weeks before the trade deadline. Now, if you're 3 or 4 games out and lots of teams to jump and it's a week before the trade deadline, maybe you have considered, maybe you are becoming a seller. Like, some of this talk is just, it's crazy. Like, with the exception of a couple of teams, and only a couple of teams know for sure they're buyers at this point.
Right. No, it's awfully early, and those things usually tend to work themselves out. By the time you get to the break. But everybody right now, it's still like that too in the NFL very often, where you don't know until the last week, right, who's actually going to make deals or not. Because
although there's not a lot of trades in the NFL, so
not anymore. No, not anymore. Probably should be more. Yeah. I think they should move the deadline really to later in the year, maybe December or later, but they haven't done that yet. Then I think you'd see a lot of movement, which would be interesting, which help the sport. But getting back to, just put a bow on this. It's like, I think this has a lot to do organizationally. The one thing I think the Rays do as well or better than any team is not panic. Eric Neander really thought they were underachieving. I mean, I was out there one day and talked to him a little bit, and he wasn't thrilled, but he realized he had at that time 4 outfielders that were down, and we're just finding out about Meisner and those guys, Magnum and Chandler Simpson had just come up. And yet, he felt like, just not playing well. We got to play better. We got to be better, especially at home. We got to be better at home. And kind of Captain Obvious a little bit, but not a lot of panic in his voice, right? Kevin Cash, maybe there's a reason why, he's one of the longest tenured managers, 2-time manager of the year, is he just goes out there and all he knows how to do is work, and these guys, like, I was impressed, when I've been out there just to see how hard they work. Like, these players, especially on fielding, and, Cash is hitting rockets at them at 3:30 in the afternoon, and, guys are all getting their swings in and stuff. Like, it's not a team that's just resting on its laurels. Like, they got a lot of guys that want to be great in that clubhouse, and but they all, when you talk to them, they all just expect to be better. They, even when they have bad nights, even when they've had a losing streak, and that's hard to get 25 guys. Like, I think this is what Cash's really brilliance is as a manager, is you get guys to have that buy-in, when maybe they're not playing every day or maybe they're not going very well. But this is a team and a franchise that has sort of found a way all the time. Now, long way to go. Yeah, they're playing their best baseball right now. But again, you can see some players come back. You got to be fortunate with injuries. There's no question about that. But, the way some guys are swinging the bat now and getting Josh back and Brandon swinging it the way he is and Caminero, like, all of a sudden you get the offense to go with what we already knew was a really good pitching staff. I mean, they're deeper in the starting staff. You want to see a team that doesn't have any pitchers, look at the Los Angeles Dodgers. They've, 3 of their top dogs are on the IL.
They have 4, at one, maybe a couple came back now. At one point, they had 14 pitchers on the IL.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's absolutely insane. But you're talking about guys that have had trouble before, and Tyler Glass now, and Blake Snell, I guess, is on the IL now and stuff. But yeah, it's been interesting. I give the Rays a lot of credit. They went through a lot of change. I think that the change was more difficult, I think, than they anticipated, just in terms of the ballpark, maybe. I did think it would excite them and would sort of be a special year, would rejuvenate them. And it really didn't at the beginning of the season. I think they struggled a little bit with that ballpark and some of the things that happened to them. But they got it going now, man, and that's really all that matters. Big news at USF. We'll get into all of that. But first, what you guys need to get down to Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. They are our sponsors. We are proud to have them because the Breitling Company makes the best Swiss watches anywhere in the world. They've been in business for over 140 years. They've been at International Plaza for more than 5 years. Okay, here's what you do. Go into the center of the mall, go to the second floor, look upstairs. You're going to see a beautiful store with some of the best customer service you'll ever encounter. Now, these folks at the Breitling Company are used to dealing with all kinds of customers, and we're talking about professional athletes, NFL players. You'll see some Buccaneers in there. I have from time to time Major League Baseball players, but they're going to treat you just like one of those dignitaries. Believe me. Come in, enjoy the store, have a drink, let them tell you about their products. And oh, by the way, they're so noted for their chronomount watches, beautiful Navatimers for the men's, and also they have women's watches, these gorgeous sports watches. They're durable, they look beautiful, they have all the different colored wristbands. And right now, while supplies last, and this has been ongoing for a while, there are 32 NFL teams, and each team has a chronomount watch made by Breitling Boutique. Now, these watches have the face of these chronomount watches are the team colors. They have the logos inside. You have to see them to really appreciate them. You can go on our website, tampabay.com, likely find the Buccaneers team watch. But again, it's while supplies last, and check them out. And believe me, you're going to find the best timepiece you've ever owned at a price that you can afford. It is Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. When you go, make sure you tell them that you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. All right, huge news, and this was breaking news in the college football or college sports world, I guess you should say, here locally, USF. Mike Kelly is moving on. The athletic director who has done so many good things and really has been sort of overseeing what they hope will soon be the construction of a new football stadium. He's hired football, baseball, basketball coaches a couple of times over in some instances. All their programs are up and running pretty well. He is leaving the University of South Florida. The news broke just yesterday, and he is headed to the Naval Academy, where his dad apparently attended, and he's also from the Maryland area, and so he's kind of a going back home situation in a sense. I can't, listen, Mike's been around here forever. This is a huge loss for USF, especially at a time where it's very sensitive when you're in a very fundraising capacity here at USF for this stadium, which, believe me, they're probably not all the way to their goal or what they need to get that thing built. In addition to them trying to eventually attract one of the power 4, power 5 conferences. So to lose somebody like Kelly, who's been in this area for so long, is not insignificant. And I think the AD sets the tone. I think Mike has done a good job. He didn't always hire the right guys, but he got better with each hire, I think. And boy, the list of candidates, and this is like, right up our alley, right? Like, hey, come up with a list of people that could possibly be interested or might have a chance at the job. They're flying, they're the same suspects you would imagine. But this was really surprising news to me. And I'm not sure what to make of it, Steve, to be honest with you.
I think it's surprising. Actually, we had a mailbag question on this. Jim had tweeted us tonight. He says, was USF blindsided with Michael Kelly's resignation, and where do they go from here?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say they were blindsided, because the fact of the matter is Michael Kelly's the athletic director at South Florida. He's done a lot of good things, including getting that stadium started to be built and got that, it's not to the finish line yet, but made the progress. I mean, had you lost him a year or so ago, it'd been a little tougher, I think, because the stadium wasn't, started at that point. You didn't have the groundbreaking and all that stuff. But I think anytime you're at a non-power 4 school, like, all your people have a chance to move up. Amir Abdur-Rahim was here for 1 year. Or I'm pretty sure probably schools came after him after that 1 year, how successful he was. Now, he chose to stay here and ended up passing away before the second season started. But if Alex Golish has a really good season this year, let's say he goes 9-3 and goes to a much better bowl game, do you think our team's going to come after him? Well, there's no difference in the athletic director as well. Michael Kelly's been raising money, was able to get a stadium being built on campus here. I mean, he's done so many good things. I don't think they're blindsided. What shocked me at first was just going, the Naval Academy? Like, if you'd have said, pick a school, North Carolina State called in the ACC. Okay. When the news first came out, granted, I wasn't thinking he's from that area. His dad, was served at the Naval Academy. He had spent time there. Like, I wasn't thinking that part of it. I just saw Navy. I mean, that was my first. It was within the same conference where Navy plays a lot of the stuff in the American. And so that part kind of was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't North Carolina or NC State or, pick your school, Iowa, or whatever, in the Big Ten, or, Ole Miss in the SEC or something, That's what kind of shocked me at first, although then you start seeing the family side of things, and that it's probably, to be honest, a less stressful job. I don't think Navy deals with NIL stuff as much and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's
they got an NIL, but it's called the U.S. government.
Well, yeah, it's the cadets at the Naval
They
Academy
all get paid there,
yeah,
man.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a little different and such. But after 7 years, he definitely has left South Florida in a much better place than it was when he got there, which is what you asked. Now, where they go from here? I mean, imagine the list of candidates are going to be, long, but you got to find the right one. I mean, you're, 2 years from opening that new stadium. You just hired a new basketball coach that, Abdur Rahim did great in year one. A lot of reasons why that last year wasn't as good. I mean, just going through what they dealt with, losing Amir so close to the season start, and that, I mean, and how young he was, just shocking. But the basketball program, the men's basketball program needs to get back to where they were 2 years ago, or start getting there. Your new baseball coach looks like he's been pretty good. They had a good season this year. Didn't make the tournament, but, saw a lot of improvement in that. So, he definitely left the program in a great place, but it needs an athletic director that can take it to higher levels as you're moving into a new football stadium, bringing that back on campus, and trying to, whenever the next set of realignment happens, or if the big conferences leave the NCAA, who are they taking with them? That's where your goal is. And so you need an athletic director that can raise a ton of money and make those connections, so that when the future happens, whatever happens in the NCAA, the USF's a part of it and moving up, not being left behind.
Yeah. Well, a couple things. One, I think what Kelly has done is sort of drag the University of South Florida into the modern era, right?
Mm-hmm.
He watched a $22 million football indoor practice facility that included a $3 million renovation of their locker room. We know so much of recruiting and competitive now nature has to require those things, as well as what is now a new football stadium. However, not all that money has been raised, and that's why I think the next AD is going to have to be somebody who's capable of raising a lot of money to see that thing to its fruition. Obviously, they've done well academically. They've had a 3.0 grade point average as athletes collectively for 21 consecutive semesters now. That tells you that they're getting the right kind of athlete there that's there for the right reasons. The hires, obviously, Abdur Rahim, that was tremendous, and it's so tragic that they lost him suddenly. Alex Golish, we'll see. We'll see. He's got a couple of bowl triumphs there. You mentioned Mitch Hannes, who's led them to their first winning season since like 2021. So now his first round of hirings, Jeff Scott to replace Charlie Strong, not a very good decision.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just not a very good decision. It's easy to say, Mama called, right? Like, I'm going home. My dad went to the Naval Academy. He served in Vietnam. And I'm from the Maryland area. This is And oh, by the way, this is what I think about if I'm him. You know how long the last AD served at Navy, and no, you couldn't name him? Like 24 years.
Yep.
24 years. No one even remotely can say most of the time, like, who are the Academy ADs, right? Like, who are they? You know, you don't hear their names. Those aren't jobs that pop open all the time. I think it's a safe position. I don't think it's a better job from an athletic standpoint. I mean, Navy's had some good years, but are they going to be invited to the national championship anytime soon? Probably not. Navy is what Navy is. You know, you hope you beat Army every year, you know, in Air Force if you play them. Mm-hmm. But it's a secure job. And frankly, even as good a job as Michael's done here at USF, I don't know whether Alex Golish is going to get them over the hump, or maybe he wins 9 games and he's off to NC State. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to keep guys here right now. And I don't know that the stadium is completely financed the way it needs to be, you know, until you start putting shovels in the ground and you start to see that thing going up. It tells me that, you know, they're not where they need to be just yet. So, and they're not part of a Power 5 conference. Like, these, think about the challenges that he faced and the headwinds. And oh, by the way, let's say Golish has a couple of bad years, or the new basketball coach can't replace Raheem or Abdul Rahim, or, you know, are they going to let him hire a third head football coach? You know, if it doesn't go well, I don't know. Like, he is definitely going home, but Tampa Bay had been his home for a long time too. And this job is you know, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's one that, you know, they're looking for results, and they have, you know, big plans to, you know, to join, whether it's the Big 12 or somebody, and they feel like they're taking the steps along the way to do it. But I think there's less security at USF than there will be for him at the Naval Academy. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely it does.
You know, so is he running to something, or is he running from something?
To be honest, I mean, you mentioned about the ADs. Like, I guess I've never thought about it, but my first reaction would have been, does Navy even have an athletic director?
Right.
Does Army have one? Like,
you think some officer runs it, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, it makes sense they do, but
yeah,
you know, they're just such a different institution, and you know, the commitments that those players have to do outside of.
Well, you mentioned NIL, which I hadn't even thought of, but like, no one's, you know, they're getting essentially they're giving a contract with the U.S. government.
Yeah, I'm not even sure they can collect NIL like those.
I don't think they can. I mean, they're basically, they don't get scholarships as much as appointments. And you're basically trading a commitment to serve like 4 or 6 years, whatever it is. Forgive me for those of you veterans who think I'm an idiot that doesn't know. But, you know, those are $100,000+ educations that are going to be earned, and going to be earned in a way that very few of us would do it, by putting their lives at risk and going in and serving in the military, whether it's 4 or 6 years. And so that's the contract that those cadets and midshipmen and people have, you know, with the U.S. government. So you're not dealing with NIL per se. Now you're recruiting a different type of athlete, man, player, woman, whatever. But the expectations scholastically are different, athletically are different, and certainly what happens post-graduation is way different. It's just a different job, you know, and, you know, a lot of people romanticize these academies. I know Bill Belichick's dad coached at Navy, and it's a place that's near and dear to his heart and always has been. So I get the cultural aspect of it. But yeah, it's not somewhere that I think I would ever be able to name the Navy AD. And so what impact can Mike Kelly have on Navy, right? That any other AD wouldn't have. At USF, you can build something. At USF, you can join a Power 5 conference. You can see the completion of a football stadium. You can make this in the middle of the state of Florida, one of the more competitive universities athletically in the country. And you're not going to do that at Navy. You're just not. It's just a different job. Now, already the names that are starting to filter out within 5 minutes, who could get this job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my good friend and colleague Joey Knight threw out some. We know this, that the Bulls softball coach, Ken Erickson, he wants it, of course, I would imagine. He also graduated from USF. How about Rob Higgins of the Tampa Bay Sports Commission?
I saw that name, and that was interesting.
I thought it was extremely interesting. I really did.
And he's a graduate of USF as well.
I graduated USF, so it would mean certainly something to him. Derek Brooks, your guy with the Tampa Bay Lightning and Vinnick Sports, and the guy that's sort of in line for it, quite frankly, if you're just going to go down the ranks, is the veteran USF Deputy AD Lalo Prado, who is actually the guy who might have the most important job, which is fundraising.
Mm-hmm. So and that's where, like a Derek Brooks or a Ken Erickson,
mm-hmm.
Are they capable of doing that fundraising? Are they able to take what Michael started and take it to another level?
It's a fair question.
When Leroy Selman started the USF football program and was the athletic director at USF, times were different. It wasn't NIL and transfer portals, and now we're getting ready for universities to start paying players, and it's an arms race for facilities, and the athletic director's job has changed drastically over the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
Drastically. It's no longer just the person that hires great coaches and cheers on and, is behind everybody. It's now you're a fundraiser first and foremost. Yeah, you got to hire good coaches, but your whole job is to fundraise money because now we're paying players and we've got to get NIL collectives that can help pay the players as well. And
all you're doing is growing the budget. You're doing is growing the budget.
And fundraising for stadiums and indoor practice facilities and renovations to locker rooms and this, because it's just an arms race. It's become huge business. And it's all about raising money now.
Yeah.
And is Derek Brooks, is that something he wants to do? Or a Ken Erickson. I mean, does Ken Erickson love the university and would do anything for the university? Yes.
I think Ken Erickson would go door to door. I think he loves it that much. I think he probably wants it that much. Lalo, I would think the same thing. He's been that's basically what his job is now.
Yeah, Lalo's, that's what he's been doing. So that one would make
that
sense.
Doesn't change. He just adds to his plate.
I also think you're going to have a lot of candidates from outside that are going to be great.
100%.
That are going to have experience of doing a lot of the things that Michael's been doing and building and fundraising and those connections to the other big conferences. Like I said, if the Big Ten and SEC leave the NCAA, what other schools are they taking with them? Or when the next round of realignment happens, what schools are going to be brought up and which ones are going to be left behind? That's a big part of this too.
Yeah, you may find an AD that's already done the job of raising money and built a new stadium on campus, right? Mm-hmm. You might find that guy.
Yep.
You mentioned Derek Brooks, and listen, I've spent a lot of time with Derek Brooks. There's very little, if anything, I could ever say bad about that man. And I would think he would have an interest. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine he wouldn't. But this is not, to your point, this is not when Leroy Selman was marching around with a thought of starting football. You know what I mean? And was the right guy at the right time to raise that awareness.
Yep.
Start that program, do it the right way, do it with class, and use his celebrity to rally people, and begin it with Jim Levitt from a trailer, over there off campus or on campus. And so it was a different time. I can remember him coming to the Times, and we all sat around as a sports department. He told us about his vision, and in his little soft-spoken voice and everything. And man, everybody was ready to, let's go contribute. Like, football at USF, that'd be awesome, right? It was just a dream back then, and now you see where it is. But this is a different time, It's a different time, and I'm thinking that there's probably a ton of really, really smart and very productive ADs at other programs or assistant ADs that have already accomplished exactly what USF wants to do. That knows how to get it done. Now, can they get it done here in Tampa Bay? Do they have any of those connections? Because that's you got to get people here interested. That's where the bulk of your fundraising is going to come from. In addition, to the alumni. So it's a multifaceted job. I think it's a good job. I don't know if it's a great job, but I think it's a really good job. And you've got to open up to a nationwide search. All these names that we heard, including Rob Higgins, who would be extraordinary. And the guy certainly knows something about putting on events and bidding for them. But you got to look at everything. You got to open this up nationwide. And just because we know these names and they may be interested, doesn't mean they're the best choice. So we'll see. And in hockey, congratulations to Nikita Kucherov, who for the second year in a row,
not second in a row, second time.
Or second time, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. The last year he won the scoring title, right?
He did win the Art Ross. He's won the Art Ross 3 times in his career, twice in a row.
Gotcha.
Which is the scoring title.
So the second time he's been named by the players the most valuable player.
Yes. So the Ted Lindsey Award is the MVP voted on by the players from the NHLPA.
Gotcha.
The Hart Trophy is voted on by the media, and that is the league's MVP. But this one's called the Players MVP. And it's the second time Cooch has won his career. Also won it back in 2018, 2019.
Which one would you rather have?
I mean, when you say who the MVP is, the Hart Trophy is the league's
the
MVP.
One that's recognized as the Hart, yeah.
But players will tell you to be voted on by your peers as the MVP
it's probably a bigger honor.
Means more to them. But
absolutely.
But 10 years down the road, when you say who was the MVP of
your name won't be called unless you win the Hart Trophy.
Yeah. Now, Nikita Kucherov is a finalist for the Hart Trophy. He's one of 3 finalists. That'll be announced next week. There's going to be a show. I think it's on June 12th. So he is a finalist for the Hart Trophy. He was the only one that was a finalist for both the Lindsey and the Hart Trophy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he won the Lindsey Trophy second time. I did find this list, and I'm looking it up real quick here. Everyone in NHL history that has won 2 or more Ted Lindsey Awards and 3 or more Art Ross trophies. Here's the list. Wayne Gretzky, pretty good. Mario Lemieux, Jaromir Jagr, Connor McDavid, Guy Lafleur, Phil Esposito, and Nikita Kucherov. That's the list.
I've heard of all those guys. I've
yes.
heard of all those guys.
Yes. They're all. I mean, McDavid's not in the Hall of Fame yet, and I don't think Jagr is either because he's still playing. He's like 50-some years old.
Jagr's still playing?
Oh, he's Europe. He's playing in Europe, but he's still the Hockey Hall of Fame. Remember, is not the NHL Hall of Fame. It's the Hockey Hall of Fame. So I don't think he's there yet because he's still playing, and McDavid's still playing, and Kuch is still playing. But the rest, I mean, when you're in that kind of category of stuff, to win the Players MVP twice and scoring title at least 3 times, that's rare air.
And yet, he hasn't scored a playoff goal in how many games?
15.
Isn't that the damnedest stat, though? I mean, how's a guy voted for the second time the most valuable player by his peers, and yet when you get to the postseason, he just doesn't show up?
Well, I mean, okay.
Credit to Florida for paying all the attention to him.
Sure. So the last 3 years, first of all, they've only played 5 or 6 games each of the last 3 years. It's not like they've played a ton. When they went to Cup Finals, he was leading the NHL in scoring in the playoffs. Not necessarily goals, but between goals and assists. Like, he's had plenty of playoff goals and plenty of assists. The last 3 years, when they've only been playing 1 series and out in either 5 or 6 games, he hasn't scored.
Yeah.
He does have some assists. It's not like he's not on the score sheet. And he hasn't played as well. But the narrative that he doesn't show up in the playoffs, like for 3 straight playoff runs, he was fantastic.
Yeah. The big reason
they won
why
2 cups and went to a cup final. The third one. Yeah.
3 in a row, yeah. Yeah, look,
he could have won the Conn Smythe either year, like that they won the cup. Like, He didn't, but they could have voted him.
I think if he had a little better cast, he probably would have scored some goals because they wouldn't have been able to pay so much attention to him these last 2 years. But for whatever reason, he's on this streak now where he's not had goals. He's had points, as you mentioned, but he just hasn't had the goals.
It's also no secret he's the best player on the ice. So what does the other team try to take away?
Always. But that's true of whoever the Lightning played, too.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
Yeah. But he's the one that's gone 15 games.
But we talked about in the Florida series, like their stars didn't do much in that series. A couple power play goals, but that was it. Like it was their third line that beat the Lightning.
Right.
That's kind of the way the playoffs are.
Yeah.
And had the Lightning played 2 or 3 series, I'm sure you would have seen Kuch scoring some goals. But you have a small sample size. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Now, did he play his best in all the playoffs? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
But, all these awards, too, are also regular season awards. So they're voted on at the end of the regular season, not playoffs. So.
Right.
And kudos and congrats to Edmonton, who wins Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. They beat Florida 4-3 in overtime. So Game 2 will be Friday night.
Yeah, and this is a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup Final, is it not?
Yes.
So Edmonton trying to avenge last year's loss. I'm sure they've made some moves and are more familiar with Florida than they were even a year ago. Stanley hadn't been in Canada for quite a while, has he?
1993, the Lightning's first season.
Holy cow, man. Are you kidding me?
Nope.
Wow.
And this win tonight by Edmonton also snapped Florida's streak. They had won 30 straight playoff games when leading after 2 periods.
Wow, that's something. That's a huge win. Huge win for the Oilers, man.
Yep. So they take a 1-0 lead. Unlike last year, Edmonton has home ice in this series. Last year, Florida did. So
yeah. Well, don't count out the Panthers. They have a way of sticking around, but they get one game, they'll be back in control, and that's sort of what they do. Saw where a lot of people picked that series to go like 6 games, I think. Not sure who they think is going to win. Hard to win back-to-back, as we know. Hard to go to 3 in a row, as the Lightning also know. And it's just been remarkable that Florida has been able to literally follow suit with what the Lightning did, for 3 consecutive years. It's really something. So we'll see how that goes. Gosh, we got just one more week, and the Bucks will be well into their final mandatory mini camp. So I'll be doing that. They've been over there at One Buck Place these last couple of days as well.
And Ray's going for a sweep tonight.
Ray's playing well, man, trying to sweep, not just take another series, which they've done, trying to sweep at Steinbrenner, which they need to do. They need to, this little winning run that they're on at Steinbrenner is long overdue, and it's one that they need to continue to ride out for as long as they can, because when they get late in the season, there's just so many road games, and it's so backloaded that way that you got to take advantage of it where you can. I mean, guys are playing well, man. It's you sit here and you watch them, it's like they're not making many mistakes. They're pitching well. They're getting timely hits. And the biggest difference, they're the long ball. The biggest difference is they're able to separate games with those home runs, And another thing that shows up, just to wrap this up, is that their speed is a weapon for them. That team runs with abandon and very high percentage too, very high percentage of stolen bases. They put a lot of pressure. Like there was a play where I think it was who beat the relay to first base, his ground ball. Mangum beats the ground ball to first base, and the pitcher's covering, and pitcher's kind of frustrated, and just for a brief second or so, he forgets that there's a runner coming around third base, who then with his back to the home plate, the runner scores, and he turns around. Aranda, it's too late. It was not a fast guy, but Aranda turns around, it's too late. But just that aggressive style, taking the extra base, stealing bases, that's been a big part of what the Rays have been this year. And you remember they ran into so many outs these last few years. They're still very, very aggressive, but they're being smarter of when they run, when they take chances.
Agreed.
So not as many outs on the bases, which is huge. But yeah, fun to watch. Okay, make sure you get down and see our friends at Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Check out the Chronomat watches, the Navatimers, the NFL team watches, all 32 teams while supplies last, as well as women's watches. And when you do go, enjoy the customer service and let them know, if you would please, that you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud, Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.